Let's talk about what we're going to talk about today. So, we're going to be going through really just that kind of like forward thinking of we've got professional learning seasons coming up. So, how can our Eduphoria, particularly our Strive professional learning, really meet those needs and help you obtain your goals that you have? So, we're going to talk about roles and rights and things of that nature today. We're going to be discussing some of these elements. And so, we really want you to walk away with a really good idea of how to implement the data that you have with the roles and rights you have to really move your professional learning objectives forward. Our agenda for today is something I'm really excited about. We're going to talk to you guys about the new Strive updates. We have new nav and Strive. It is so exciting. So we are going to be talking about some of those, give you some peeps into those. And if you've logged into Strive, you've already seen the new nav. So we're really excited about that. Then Paige is going to be walking us through best practices with conferences. So what are conferences, all the ins and outs of them, how it will make your life a lot easier and efficient when planning targeted professional learning events in your district. So we're super excited for you to be doing that and like really thinking about your professional learning needs and how it pertains to your schools. So let's dive in to the amazing spot that I'm so excited to share with you, our Strive updates. So first update, new efficient navigation. So we've got, you'll see that over on the far side of the screen, you're going to see what the old nav looked like. And now this is your new nav on the right-hand side. So just a few key changes for you to review there. It really helps you drill down to what you need to do in each element of Strive with this new navigation. So are you managing staff in the courses, in the course catalog or the conferences? Do you need to do credits for approval? Really breaking down professional learning as well as your analysis. So one of the best things about our system is the great data that you can pull from it and receive those reports and really use data informed measures to help you reach your goals. So that is our new efficient navigation. Next up, I want to show y'all the unified settings for the settings panel. So you're going to see number one, whole new look, a little bit bigger, a little bit more explanation of what each element is. You're going to see how you can set up your framework, and that's in a separate area now. Manage student growth as well. You can also toggle those important evaluation status emails from this lens and import external professional development. And then our last navigation change that I wanted to show y'all is this organized reports. So gives you a better view of what report you're looking at. We are so excited to offer you guys this new navigation and implement it out because this also brings parity to if you work in Aware, you're now seeing how both products now have the same looks on their the back side of it. So your reports, your settings, things of that nature. It has a very aware look to it. Are you aware of how Strive looks like Aware now? So we hope that this helps really drive your efficiency and find what you need, as well as get you going and not having to spend time searching for things. So we do have also a little bit for our appraisal administrators. For those of you, the system administrators, for our roles and rights, they do have a new organization. So we have separated evaluation and professional learning, and that's really just to help you target which person needs which role. So when you get these slides, I do want to challenge you to take a look at the custom roles and those links there on that slide, because sometimes we think that more is more, but when it comes to roles and rights, a lot of times Paige and I will see things where less is more. So if you're going in and you're like, oh, I'm the administrator, and you're clicking all of the boxes on that page, double check, because you can actually limit yourself on some of those roles if you're selecting every single option. So just a good refresher. And then you'll also get to take a look at how we've separated the Strive roles and rights in evaluation and professional learning. So, but wait, there's more. So we have some updates specific to conferences, and I'm going to hand that over to Paige so that she can walk you through those updates and we can start strolling through all the great things that conferences offers us. Paige?
All right, thank you. Well, as Allison said, we're going to talk about the updates first, and then we'll talk about some best practices, and then just a little review of how things work in conferences overall, so that you'll be ready to go if you decide to implement this part as part of your spring and summer professional development plans. So first is digital sign-in. This is not brand new, but it is new to some people. We've covered it in a webinar in the past, and we've had some articles in our online help guide, but it is one of our newest and it's a really powerful tool. So I wanted to talk about it again today. Digital sign-in does have to be turned on per session in conferences. So you'll go into the session. It can be done when a conference contributor is creating sessions. It's this toggle right here. You can see that it's turned on for this particular session. The default is for it to be turned off, so you would want to click that as you're building all the other elements in your session. But it can be turned on by course creators, and we'll talk about some of the things that it can do. You'll notice at the bottom of most, not all, but most of the slides have a link, and this is a link to the digital sign-in section of our online help guide. Allison mentioned that you'll get the slides. It's usually about 24 hours after the session before the system gets them all processed and packaged and ready to email out. But you'll get the slides and you'll have these links so that you can go into the online help guide and take a look at that information yourself. Okay, you can export the codes. So there are two ways that you can do it. Each instructor or conference creator can go into the session itself. There is a little icon there with the QR code on it. When you click on that, it will export a page that has the QR code and the URL because it's going to give you both of those things. So if you have some people who aren't comfortable with a QR code reader on their phone or don't know how to do that, you can give them a shortened URL to the session and they can use that to this is not their enrollment. They're already enrolled. This is for them to be able to mark themselves present in that session so that they'll get credit. So it can be done by session or a conference creator, someone who can has the professional development administrator role and can see the all of the conference settings, can go into sessions and they can export the QR codes from there. That will be all of the QR codes for the conference for all sessions. They will have information at the top, what the session name and date, time is, and and the room, I think, so that you'll know which one is which. But you can print them all out at once, and if you're doing like a registration packet for instructors to pick up, they can come in and grab that and have their QR codes to post in the room or however you're going to have them do it. But you can get those codes either session by session or in one big chunk from the conference page. So how do you use those? Well, we've had different districts doing different things. You can print the codes. Like I said, they're going to generate a PDF with one per page. So you can print that out and use those as door signs or table tents in the room so that as people enter the room, they can go ahead and scan the code and check themselves in. We've also seen a lot of districts adding that QR code to the first slide of their presentation for the session and have that slide up on the screen. And as people come in, they can scan the code, check themselves in, go sit down. Like I said, there is a URL that goes with the code. So you can email the URL to all your participants if you want to do it that way and have them click on that link and go into the registration that way. The codes themselves are available. Like you can print the QR codes, you can see the URL, but it's not active for registration or for sign in until 15 minutes before the session through 15 minutes after the session. So they can't sign in 3 days in advance and then not show up. Or they can't leave the session and tell their friends, here's the QR code, scan it and get yourself some credit. It's only 15 minutes before through 15 minutes after. But if you have it posted in the room somewhere or you have it up on the screen at the beginning, then your users will be able to see it when they get into the room. Even if they come in a few minutes early, they'll be able to see it, when 15 minutes before and go ahead and scan that or type in the URL and get themselves checked in to the session. Another new feature is that you can import attendees. So this is another way to get people into your sessions. They can always register for the conference and then enroll themselves in sessions, and you can create learning tracks. We'll talk about those in a minute to help them find your sessions. But if you just want to say, okay, all assistant principals are required to come to this session, then you can create a CSV file that has their email addresses in it. It does have to have a header that's labeled email. So all it technically needs is one column that says email at the top and has all the email addresses in there. If it has first name and last name in there too, that's okay, but it has to have that email field. And then you can go into the session itself. You'll see there's now an upload button. It's to the left of grant credit there, has a little up arrow. And with that up button, you're going to get this screen at the bottom where you can drag and drop, or you can go out with the choose file button and search your computer to find that CSV file that you created and upload that, and it will put them in the session that you're in. So you have to go to the session you want to import them into, go to the enrollment tab, click the import button, and then add that file. And then all of those users will be registered for that conference session without them having to go in and find it and choose it. So that's a new feature that we've just rolled out. And then the last new thing to conferences is some updates to the sign-in sheet. And these are based on requests from districts who said we needed more information on the sign-in sheets. So they now include the school, the time of the session, and the title of the session. I don't know why the title wasn't on there before, but that makes sense that it's needed. So now when you print it out, it'll tell you exactly what the session is, the location and the time, and then have the sign-in sheet that you can use in your room. We do recommend that you have people use a sign-in sheet, especially the first few times you do digital sign-in until they get used to it and everybody's comfortable with it, so that you have a backup and you can check and make sure that everybody did it correctly. We may have some people who aren't used to doing QR codes, and you just want to make sure that they're signed in, and you can double check on them. So you still have the ability to print your sign-in sheets. Again, you can go in by session, go to the enrollments tab, and then click on the printer icon, which is going to print that sign-in sheet.
Hey Paige, we've got
Yes,
some
ma'am.
really great questions in our Q&A window. Some of them I've
Okay.
answered on the side because they were kind of specific. But I do have two that I'd like to share. So first question is, will digital sign-in be available for regular sessions outside of conferences?
It is already, very good question. It is already available for courses. I am going to jump over into the live situation, and I'm going
Ooh.
to go into courses. So this is not conferences, this is regular courses. And I forgot that I actually need to be in my settings down here. Um, we are still, or I shouldn't say we, I am still also getting used to the new navigation, and my finger just goes where I think it needs to be sometimes. But if I go into, oh, I needed to go over here. I lied. I needed to be in the catalog, because the catalog is now where you go to manage conferences and courses. So you sign up for stuff down here, but you manage it up here in the catalog. And I did that wrong, sorry. So if I go in to a course, and it's going to take it a minute to load, because we have so many courses for so many years in our demo system that it takes a little bit for it to load. But when I go in now and look at the setup and go to sessions and locations, and I'm going to click on my locations, you'll see down here at the bottom where you pick your room, there's also an enable digital sign in here. It works the same way. You can still go in and print your QR codes and everything. And it's also available 15 minutes before and 15 minutes after the session. So it is out and live in the world on the courses side as well. Did you have another one for me?
I did just one more, and please keep them coming, guys. We have two now. So is there a way for participants? Is there a way participants can pre-register for individual conference sessions using a direct link?
Using a direct. There's not one using a direct link.
I'm guessing like in courses.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. So they cannot, it doesn't generate a URL like the courses do. You can pre-enroll them, like I said, with the import, or they can register and enroll themselves, but you can't send them a link the way we do with courses.
And then we are So, Tino, I know we are going to answer that question when we go over QR codes, but am going to answer Victoria's question, really, or pitch that to Paige. The question is, if participants did not register for the course but sign in digitally, will it automatically register them for the course?
No, in order for them to sign in digitally, they have to be registered. So if they didn't register, they're going to need to come in, sit down, register, and then they can use the QR code. And
Um,
that's kind of the
okay.
same with courses. You can come in and register right up until the course starts in most cases, but they have to be registered in order to use the digital sign-in.
And then can you, well, actually, I'm going to hold Tracy and Tina, I'm going to hold our questions to whenever we get to those because
Okay.
Paige is going to show y'all some little front end information and then we can tackle your questions.
Okay.
All right, proceed, please.
All right, thank you. I'm going to go into conference setup and just show how some things are working. One of the biggest questions we get is about the roles and rights for conferences to make sure everybody can do what you want them to be able to do. So, the only people who can create, like start a new conference, are people who have the professional development administrator role. That doesn't mean you need to go out and give a bunch of people that role. We still recommend 3 to 5 people in the district have that top administrator role, both in professional learning and in the appraisal side of Strive. But those are the people who can go in and give it a name, set the dates, set the learning tracks, that kind of stuff. They can also, while they're building that, add in conference contributors. And the conference contributors need to have the district course editor role, and then they can build all the sessions. So just because you are the professional development administrator doesn't mean you have to do everything in the conference. You can set it up, create your conference contributors, and then they can all build their own sessions. You just have to make sure that your conference contributors are district course editors, and that's frequently already the case. They're probably going to be your curriculum coordinators, your professional development staff, and they may already be district course editors. But when you make them a conference contributor, then they can go in and build everything. And then a session instructor needs to be an instructor in the workshop setup. Conferences and courses are tied fairly closely together and they share some information. And that instructor list is one of those things. So if you have people that you want to be able to present in conferences, they also need to be set up as instructors on the workshop side for courses as well. And so you can have some people who just instruct, they didn't build it, they didn't put it in the catalog. That was done by the conference contributors who didn't create the conference. That was done by the professional development administrator. So you can kind of spread the workload around, but those are the settings that you need to have for the different groups of people. Other elements that are shared with workshop include the locations. So if you're going to use conferences, I know some districts, when they did their initial setup, they only put campuses in one time. For a conference, you really need to have those rooms in there so that you can select specific rooms and people aren't double booking those rooms. Um, so you would want to make sure that in the workshop settings, and the professional development setup section, that you have all of the rooms for the campus that you're using. When a professional development administrator creates a conference, they're going to select the specific rooms that are available for that conference. So they're not going to be able to choose any room anywhere in the district. They're going to have to choose a room at the campus where you're having the conference. So that's all going to be limited in that conference setup to just those specific rooms. And you want to have all the rooms there for them to choose from. It's also helpful to have the max attendance in the location. And again, both of those things are set up in the workshop settings. If you have the max attendance, it's going to pop in with that number. What can this room hold? So this set example is an auditorium that can hold 350 people. When I selected that auditorium, it populated the max attendance that was in the location settings in workshop setup. And so I know how many people, and that's how many it's going to let me register. If I don't want it to be quite that many, yeah, we're in a big room, but I don't want more than 150 people, I can change that number, but it's going to tell me what the room can handle, and then I can adjust from there. Maybe the room says 25, but I know I've got a laptop cart and there's some tables at the back of the room, and I might up that number a few. I can adjust, but at least I know what the room is set up to hold. And then the credit types also pull in from the workshop setup. So whatever credit types you're using for your other courses, that's what you're going to see here to choose that credit type. Again, Texas SBEC credit is a default. It's there for everybody, and that's what should be the primary credit type. That's what is like your district is an approved Texas SBEC credit provider, and that's what your teachers are going to turn in for their recertification credits. So that should be like the primary, but you may also have a second credit type in there, and that will pull from whatever your list includes. And then, as we mentioned before, the instructors, that list it comes from the workshop setup as well. And so you can pull anybody that's in that instructor list. I can start typing the name and it will predict and find them. So I don't have to scroll through the big long list, but that information is going to pull in from there too. Okay, I'm gonna jump over to the live side and show creating a conference. If I can just get the screen out of my way. There we go. So I can go in and build a conference and we can walk through all of the parts of that. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to say I want to go to the catalog and I want to manage conferences and I'm going to create a new conference. So I'm a professional development administrator. I have the ability to do this. If I didn't have that role, I wouldn't. Um, I'm going to say February 17th, I think, is President's Day. And that is frequently a professional development day. So I'm going to call this um, Staff Development Day. That's going to be the name of my conference. It's going to be a 1-day conference. This can be multiple. So like your summer conferences, they might be 3 days, they might be 5 days. They can be as long as you want them to be. You'll set your start date and your end date. I'm just going to have a single day. And I'm going to say that the description of this conference is staff professional. I can't type when people are looking. Learning will be held at I'm going to put a campus name in there. And then this is where I would build in my contributors. So who do I want to help me with this? Who else is going to build sessions for me? I can go in and find several people that I can make work. I thought Allison was in there. Where's Allison? There she is. So I'll put her to work as well. I can have multiple contributors. Sometimes you'll have one from each subject area, one from special ed, one from, or multiples from PD, probably multiples from technology or instructional technology. So you can have a list of contributors and they can all set up their own sessions. Um, I'm going to pick my locations. So I'm going to go and say we're going to use the high school for this because it's going to be for our whole district. Where's my high school? Here we go. High school starts here, I think. So I'm going to pick the auditorium and all the computer labs. I knew there was one up there. Oh, no. Yep, that's high school. I don't know what that one's not named the same way. But I'm going to pick all of the computer labs, the library, the auditorium. This one has a multi-purpose room. And then I've got a couple of classrooms, teaching theaters that I'm going to pull in as well. So those are all the rooms that will be available for my conference people to select, which means that's how many concurrent sessions I can have going on because that's how many locations I've selected. And then I also want to add some learning tracks. So learning tracks are uh, tags that you can add to your sessions to help people identify what they're looking for. So I might say one is going to be instructional strategies. I'm going to and it puts it in there as a learning track. And then I might have one for assessment. And I might have one for goal setting. So you can have anything you want. It can be subject related. I can do math, science, social studies, language arts. I can do grade levels. I can do particular groups. So I can say all instructional coaches or all assistant principals. You can build the learning tracks however you want to. I do have a slide over here. Well, I don't know where I put it. Somewhere had a thing about setting up those learning tracks, and I'll probably come on that slide later on. But for me, you've got to find a balance because having too many learning tracks, they spend too much time scrolling through and trying to figure out, well, what's the difference between this one and that one? Too few, and it doesn't really narrow it down enough for them. So just find that balance for helping them without overwhelming them. And once I have all of my learning tracks set up, then I can either go and start creating sessions, or I can go to the Publish tab and set up my dates. So I may want to make this available for people to start registering for things January 27th. And then, well, that's when it's going to be published. I can make the registration date the same, or I can say I'm going to let them look at it for 2 days and then they can register. I usually set them up to be the same for both. If they're there and they see it, I don't want to make them have to come back later and sign up for the things that they found that they liked, because they'll forget. But you can set that up how you have three separate dates that you can change. And then for the end registration, I'm going to have it end on the actual date. So they could register for sessions that hadn't happened yet. So if I get there on the morning of and I see something that's happening in the afternoon I didn't know about, I could go in and register for it as long as I do it before the registration closes. And then I can look at the registration page. I don't have anybody in there yet because I just created this. So that's setting up a conference. And then I'm going to go into my sessions. Anybody that I made a contributor, so my list of contributors, all of those people can see this page. They cannot go in and change any of this information. So they can't change the name or the locations or any of that, but they can see the sessions tab and they can create from there. So I can go in and say at 8 o'clock, I'm going to have a keynote session, and it's going to be the superintendent. So that's going to be like the state of the district. And um, I'm not going to put the superintendent in as an instructor, because I don't think that he would probably be the one taking attendance or checking on that stuff. So I'm going to make Baxter an instructor for this session. So that's really kind of like a proctor position in this case, not the presenter, but the manager of the session. I don't necessarily have a learning track that I want to tie to this, but if I did, all I would have to do is click on it. So maybe if the superintendent said we're going to talk about district goals and campus goals and personal goals, I could select that as my learning track. For this particular session, I want to be in the auditorium because that's our biggest room. I do want people to sign in digitally, so I'm going to turn that on. And then for my credit types, I'm going to give 1 hour of SBEC credit for this session. And I'm done. It auto saves, so everything is in there, ready to go. I could go to enrollments now. Nobody has enrolled because it's not even registerable. But if I had a list of people that I wanted to enroll, I could go ahead and come over here and bring them into the session right now if I wanted to. They can't register for the session until the 27th, but I've got the course set up or the session set up. I could go ahead and enroll them now. I also already have a QR code, so I can see that. I can download the QR code or print it, and then I can copy it to the clipboard to use somewhere else. So if I was generating a PowerPoint presentation or Google Sheets or whatever, and I wanted to put this on the first slide, I could either download it and bring it in, or I could copy it and paste it on there. Okay, so I've got that session created, and this is one of my favorite things about this. Maybe there's going to be a keynote on the second day, or maybe I'm going to have a second session and I want to make a copy of it. If I'm offering the same thing more than once, the great thing about conferences is I can just click on the duplicate button. It made a copy. I would want to take off the words copy of, and I would want to change the time or the date. I mean, maybe this is going to be on the 18th. I don't have another date available because I only made it a 1-day conference, but I could change the date or I could change the times to make them not happen at the same time. So maybe I'm breaking the keynote into two sections. This may be for uh, elementary, and the first one's going to be for secondary because we got too many people to go in the auditorium all at once. So I've saved that one. And then I'm going to go back to my conference, and I've got the two sessions. I can go back to this one and make it my secondary. Excuse me. Pardon me. So I can change the name of that first one. It again auto saves. When I go back and look at my day, now I have those two sessions. So the duplicating sessions is super fast and easy. And in a conference, you do frequently offer the same thing more than one time. And so that's a great feature that you're able to copy that way and make it that fast. Um, so I've talked about creating a conference and sessions. Let's talk about attendance. I'm going to go back to a different conference because I don't have anybody in that one. So I'm going to go to a conference that was already created, and I'm going to go to the attendees view. Oh, no, didn't want to go to attendees view. I wanted to go to I'm going to go to registrations. So I can see all of the people who have registered, and I can print that list or I can download that list. If I go into a session, I can see if I have anybody enrolled. I had some people enrolled in a session, maybe just in the keynote. Yeah, I've got some people enrolled in the keynote. So I can go into enrollments as a session of the session. These people are all enrolled when the session is over, either through digital sign in or just me going in. I would turn the attendance on that they did actually attend. I can't do that because the session hasn't happened yet. But I would want to go in and turn that on for everyone who attended. And then once I have people in attendance and the session has finished, the button up here will be blue for me to click on and grant credit. So it's actually faster and easier to do credit here because you can see more people on the page, and it will automatically mark all the people who signed in digitally. And once they're marked attendance granted, then I can just click on grant credit. So that's quick and easy way to do the credit as well.
Hey Paige, we do have some of our professional learning mavericks and mavens that have some questions about this. So first question is there a way to limit attendance for a conference session? For example, an attendee arrives at a session, signs in digitally, and then would receive a message that the session is at capacity. Is that a
Um,
thing?
So the capacity is determined when you build the session. So if I go into the session details, this is my capacity right here. So if I want it to be 30 people, then when the 30th person has registered, they won't be able to register. And if they're not registered, they won't be able to use digital sign-in. Digital sign-in is not registration or enrollment. Digital sign-in is checking in that I'm here. So I have to be registered, I have to be in the course, and a seat is being held for me, and my name is already in the list. And then when I get there and scan the code, it says she's here, check. So this does digital sign in does not register them, it's just signing them in.
Okay. Next question. I haven't tested the QR codes in conferences, but the course sign-in doesn't include the URL. Can that be an option? Do we have a workaround for that?
I will have to dig into that. Is that question in the questions or in the chat?
Q&A.
Okay, so I'll take a look at the Q&A after the session because I can see those afterwards. And we'll dig in and see if I can get an answer for you.
Okay, and I'm also going to, Tina, I'm going to send you an email address as well so that you can also ping us for an answer for that. And we will also get back to you. We'll go into our Q&A and circle back with you as well. Our next question is, can you print the digital sign-in to see who did and didn't sign in?
Well, when you go into the enrollments, you will see who has given themselves attendance already.
Okay. And will the system prevent a workshop creator from double booking a room in conferences?
It will not prevent it, but that's one of the things I wanted to talk about. So let me go back to my session details. Where am I? Come over here. So I'm going to go back to the conference and I'm going to look at sessions, and I can see multiple views. So the main view is the calendar view. It's going to show me all the sessions at different times, and that's that's fine to have multiple sessions happening at the same time. We're always going to have concurrent sessions. But we have two other views, and one of them is the location view. The location view is going to show me all of my rooms, and my rooms should never have concurrent bookings. So if I look at this one and I see two side by side in the same slot, it's fine to have two side by side in the same slot here because that's same time, different location. But if I go into the location view and I see two things that are double booked, then I know I've got a problem and I will need to move one of those to a different room. So if there was a double one here, I could move this to another computer lab. But I can scroll through all of my rooms and look for that double booking. That's one of the things that I want to be able to do. See right here, I've got one that's double booked. Two sessions are in the same room at the same time, and that's not going to work. So I can scroll through and quickly find them. I've got that problem happening in multiple, I think whoever did creating maybe booked after and they chose the same room. So I would need to move some of those to one of the other computer labs once I find them.
All right.
Okay. Um, Let me see what else I said I wanted to talk about. Let's talk about some best practices. So, how can you use conferences? Clearly, when you have those professional development days or weeks in the summer, and you have just a general conference offering training for all your teachers, that's a great use of conferences because of the registration and the room management and that kind of stuff. But there are lots of different ways that conferences can be used. Those back to school conferences, new teacher conferences, or for specialized groups. CTE might have its own conference, special ed might have its own conference. Sometimes pre-K has its own conference because their content is very specific. Sometimes you have grade level or subject area conferences. They can be any group that needs to meet and is offering multiple things, whether it's a single day, multiple days, it doesn't matter. Those are all ways that you can use conferences. Um, Conferences can also be virtual, and I think I have something in there. Well, I'll get to it eventually, I'll get to that slide, but you can have a virtual conference because there is a place in the setup of the sessions for you to put in a Zoom link or Google Meet link for your users to join from there. So you could have an ongoing conference that has sessions on different days throughout the semester that you build as a conference just so that you can do the credit easily. So lots of different ways that you could set up for conferences. Naming the sessions. I did want to point this out because it just depends on what you're used to using in the reports. There are three different places where the conference session titles are going to show up. In portfolios, they show up with a little icon that's a person with the world on their shoulders. That lets you know that it's a conference session. So you can easily identify that this was a conference. Because I might have a course named Instructional Strategy, and it might be a 2-hour course, but this is just the 1-hour conference session, and I can tell the difference with the icon. If you're pulling the custom PD report, it's also it will display, if you choose course type as one of your fields, it will display what kind of course it is. So I can see here, Milo took the course called Instructional Strategies that was probably 2 hours of credit, whereas Juno and Megan and Paige took the conference session, which is a 1-hour credit. But I can see the course type if I put that field in my report when I build it. I could also filter it down and have it only show me the conference ones if I wanted to. In this case, I just wanted it to show me which one they took. But if you pull the staff credit report, which is a standard generated a report that's been around since the beginning of Eduphoria, then it does not have a distinction between courses and conference sessions. It only shows the title. And so if you're someone who uses this report frequently, you might want to consider naming your conference sessions with some little clue that it's a conference. If you put CON at the beginning or at the end of the title or something, because the only thing that displays in the staff credit report is the session title. And so to distinguish between the conference one and the standard one, I would want some sort of name in there. That name will show up here and here also, which is not a problem, but it just depends. If you're not a user of the staff credit report, that may not be an issue for you. But we have a lot of people who use that report and then they say, hey, how can I tell the difference? And you really can't unless you name your sessions for that. So that's just a little best practice tip. Ways to view your session. We just talked about the list. The one I didn't mention before is the list view. So that one is in the middle. This looks exactly like what the users are going to see in the catalog. So this is going to be a preview for you of what they go see when they're registering for sessions. This is how it's going to appear to them. So you can see that view, you can see the calendar view where your courses are all side by side. And if this was multi-day, I'd be able to scroll through my days. And then I can also see my locations where I can scroll through my locations. Um, Setting up your locations, we talked about this a little bit previously. I would want to have each room in here rather than just having the campus name. I'd want to have the room names and numbers so that that's going to help my participants when they go in to and register. They'll know exactly what room they're going into. It's going to show that in their information. And also, if you can include the max attendance, that is helpful when you're building a conference to know what will that room accommodate? And I can adjust it up or down depending on my needs, but I'll know what the expected capacity is. And then you may want to add some virtual rooms to your location if you don't already have some, especially if you're going to do a totally virtual conference. I'd want to have multiple virtual rooms, but you might have a guest speaker that you could afford to have them join virtually, but maybe not afford to have them join live and in person. You could set up that to be a virtual session that happens maybe in the auditorium and they're projected on the big screen, but you would not want to have that taking up space in one of your other room locations. Okay, using the learning tracks, we talked about this a little bit earlier too. You can create however you want. They can be by subject or grade level, they can be by user groups, they can be by applications, they can be by some overarching topics like assessment or technology. Um, but just find that balance to help them narrow down without overwhelming them and make sure that they're things that are going to be tied to your content. Copy sessions, we already talked about how easy it is to duplicate. That's super fast. Um, Virtual sessions, this is the slide I was looking for earlier. When you're creating a session, you do have a place where you can enter a virtual link. And then I would want to tie it to a virtual meeting space, whatever you called it in your locations, um, so that that will be another clue for your users when they see the location, they know it's going to be a virtual session and that's going to show up for them. This is what it looks like when they, in their registration information, they'll have a link that they can click on to go into that virtual session. But they can see here that it's in a Zoom meeting room, and then they have the link to it. Again, if you're doing an all virtual conference, we recommend that you have multiple virtual meeting rooms so that your room view, your location view will still make sense. If you have them all in one pile, it doesn't really make sense. So having multiple rooms lets you still take advantage of all your views. How can you help boost attendance for your conferences? One thing you can do, and this is a training issue to get your teachers to go in and add their conference session either to, they can add it directly to a Google Calendar, or they can export that little, I think it's called an ICS file. They can export that and import it to whatever calendar application y'all are using. But that puts it on their calendar that they use on a daily basis. They will also have access to look at their schedule in our system, but they'll get notifications or whatever from their calendar if they put it in there. And then you can, just like you can in conferences, you can email session attendees. When you go to a session and open the enrollments tab, there will be an envelope that will email all of the participants. You can also download their email addresses if you want to. If you want to use them somewhere else or communicate through some other system, you can get all of the email addresses for that session. You can also get a list of all the people who are registered for the conference as a whole from the conference. Let me go to conference details. If I go to registrations here, I can download that list of email addresses for everybody who is registered for the conference. So that's not just my session, that's everybody, but maybe as a conference manager or creator, I'm going to download that. I'm going to drop that into the blind copy side of an email, and I'm going to just say on Sunday, don't forget the conference tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock at Bayside High School. And so they'll go and show up for their conference. But if you want to do those session reminders, there's also an email button within the each session.
Hey Paige, we do have a question in the chat, or not in the chat, in the Q&A, but it also looks like one of our also professional learning mavericks has answered it as well. But just for everyone to hear, how long do they have to sign in digitally using the QR code?
It is from 15 minutes before the session starts. So whatever time you set, if it's an 8 o'clock session, they can start digitally signing in at 7:45, and then it will last until 15 minutes after the end time for the session. So usually it's an hour and a half that the window is open for them to sign in. And if you have that QR code displayed or a way for them to get to it in the room when they come in, they can register on their way in. If they come in late and you want them to still be able to sign in and it's still on the wall, they'll be able to do that throughout the session and then for 15 minutes after.
Great. And for I am seeing a few things drop in on ideas. We I'm going to put in the chat the if you have an idea, you're like, oh, this is a great idea, you can submit that as a feature request. And I'll put the email address for that, but just put in feature request on the title, and you can put in what your feature request is and why do you think it like maybe some rationale behind why you chose that feature request. And so that really helps us be able to send that along and have really great discussions for future consideration for development. I'll pop that into the chat right now.
Yeah, that'll be great. Sometimes we get feature requests and we can respond and say, well, you can do that, but you do it like this. And maybe that will solve the problem. And then other times it's like, we never thought about that. And so we can send that up to the development team for their consideration. So we always welcome requests for changes and things that you'd like to see in the software. So please feel free to do that. Okay, I'm going to go quickly through the participants' experience. When they log in, and again, I'm going to go in as a teacher, and I'm going to come over here on the left-hand side now. I would go to conferences, and I would see what is available. I'm going to click on this one. I'm going to unregister real quickly so you can see what it looks like. But I can register for my conference here. Once I'm registered, you'll notice right now, I don't have the ability to sign up for or enroll in any of my sessions. I can see them, but I can't do anything. Once I've registered for the conference as a whole, then I get the ability to choose my sessions. And I could come over here and say, well, I really need to learn about assessment. When I choose that learning track, it's going to narrow it down to only the ones that have assessment selected as a learning track in that course. Sometimes you'll find a course, I didn't do this when I was setting this one up, but sometimes they'll have more than one. So it might be assessment and math talk. And so whichever one I picked, it would show me that session. Once I've found a session that I'm interested in, I can click to enroll in it. I'm going to take my filter off over here, but you can see that I'm enrolled in this one. It's also showing me the other courses that are available at that time, but I can't enroll in more than one at the same time. So I can still see them. And if I go, oh, I forgot about that one, that's the one I really wanted to go to, I can unenroll from the one I picked first and then choose the one that I really wanted to go to. But I have to unenroll in one at that time slot before I can pick another one because I can't be enrolled in two things at the same time. Which is a good thing. Courses does not always prevent you from doing that. It depends on your district settings. So this kind of helps you have from having people who are double booked and then they're taking up a space that somebody else would have liked to have. So I can go in and register for the things that I want to take. Oh, I don't want to take the same thing two times. I can pick my courses for each time slot. And then once I'm done with that, I can go up to the top and say show only my schedule, and it's going to narrow it down to only the things that I've chosen. We do not have an app per se, but you can go to Strive conferences on your phone and you can click on the show only my schedule and you'll be able to see this information on any device. And so I can look at that, and then I can also click to see where is it happening? Are there any other details that I need to know about it? So I can see my schedule and I can click on each course to get, this is telling me the room and the time, and which is basically all I need to know. But if I wanted to know who the instructor was or how much credit I was going to get, I could open that up and see a little bit more. Okay, what else did I say we were going to talk about? We've talked about signing in. We've talked about, okay. So once I'm registered, I'm enrolled, I just want to make sure everything is where it's supposed to be. I can come over here to my enrolled courses and I can see that I'm enrolled. Again, I have an icon for conferences, which is the two people. E-courses is a laptop and face-to-face courses is a chair. But the ones that have the two people, those are conference sessions, and I can see the date for my conference and what I'm enrolled in. That's going to show up now because I'm enrolled ahead of time. When I complete those, they're going to move over into the completed courses section. And then when all the year is done, I will be able to see them in my portfolio. So I can go look at last year and see if I have any. So I have some conference sessions that I attended right here. I can see from that icon that those were conference sessions. So it's going to follow with the rest of my professional development information before, during, and after the conference. Um, well, we just looked at completed courses. Two-way communication. We talked about how instructors can email participants, but participants can also email instructors. They can go into the course details and click on the instructor's name and they will see the email address. They will usually have to either, sometimes depending on some settings, they can click on the instructor's name and send an email directly from there, or they can right click, copy the email and address and paste it into their email application to send an email to that instructor. So they do have the ability to reach out. And then again, they can view their progress in their portfolio when it's all said and done. All right. Do we have any final questions?
Um, I'm answering one right now in Q&A. The question was, is there a future plan for an Eduphoria conference app? And our software is actually device agnostic. And so it's best accessed on a Chrome web browser, whether that is on your phone or on your iPad or on your device. But the Chrome web browser gives you that really nice clean interface that you would use for any element of Strive or aware. It really gives that clean look.
And our developers have gone with what they call, I'm not going to say the right words, but it's responsive development. So a lot of times you'll be on something and it'll say, do you want to use the mobile version? It's like that. It responds, it knows what device you're on, and it does the best display for that kind of device. So we've gone that direction rather than trying to keep up with apps, because apps have to be updated every time a browser has an update, and you guys know how quickly all of the browsers update, how many times that happens. So they're doing that responsive development using Chrome instead of developing another app.
And and like we've said earlier, if you notice anything that can be improved, please let us know. I put the support email address in the chat. So you can always reach out to us with those feature requests so that we can really come together and look over them and share them with our developers. Um, And then also, if you have any questions about conferences pertaining to your role in the district or how to really mobilize what we've talked about today, and you just need that extra set of eyes or hands to be thought partners with, or you need some additional training, please email us at training@eduphoria.net. That actually goes to all our whole team on PLC. So you'll be able to, one of us will be able to get back to you and really connect you with the resources and the assistance that you need. I just want to go over some little last minute nuggets before our time together is done. We do have our teacher learning courses for Aware and Strive. So maybe you have somebody that onboarded over the holiday break. The learning courses are really great asynchronous ways to educate anyone or maybe just help them remember elements of the teacher learning pieces for the Aware and Strive products. So those are available to you. The link is going to be in those slides that we send out. And as always, we thank you guys so much for spending your time with us today. We hope that you enjoyed this webinar. Again, always reach out. We're here to support you. We're always here to help you. And we hope you stay super warm and cozy during our winter months. Have a lovely Wednesday.
Thank you.